Let me bring in Yaw Nsarkoh, a member of the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey. And as we talk about this matter, Mr. Nsarkoh, good afternoon, and a pleasure as always to have you on the pulse.
Good afternoon.
All right, so this morning we woke up to the news that over 100 military personnel are already in some of the river bodies, some in the eastern region. I'll take my viewers there shortly, and they are enforcing the present new directive to deal with illegal mining. There's also another directive to the Minister for Environment to halt the implementation of LI 2462. These are the two measures taken by government so far. Enough for you?
Well, if you're saying enough for one morning, yes, enough for one morning. If you're saying enough to solve Galamsey, no. So yes, these are useful signs that maybe at last this issue is being taken very seriously. But I think you and I and all the people who spoke before, because I was watching, have indicated that this is a hydra-headed issue that needs comprehensive interventions. So let us see this as the beginning rather than as a sign that Galamsey is being solved so we can all relax.
This week, for example, I read about the genesis of Galamsey in Ghana way before independence. And it's been an issue that has been with this country before independence, throughout the Fourth Republic, and it's now gotten to a point where we all of us are at risk of being run over by illegal mining. Will you say that leadership failure has been the main issue why we are where we are now?
Yes, I would say so, but before I get to that, when we say that there has been Galamsey even before independence, we are right. But what was that Galamsey? My understanding of the etymology of Galamsey is that it meant gather and sell.
Right.
And then it got corrupted to Galamsey. Many of the people who were involved in it were peasant artisans. They had very basic implements, some a shovel here, pickaxe there. They go into discarded mines or places that were rich in minerals, and they gather the stuff. And what they gather, they can sell. So while we say there has been a long history of Galamsey in Ghana, we also have not seen the degree of pollution of water bodies, destruction of the ecological system that has happened.
Right.
There's a reason why. Because what we are today calling Galamsey has significant technological intensity, sophisticated earth-moving equipment, industrial organization. So it's a very different category of activities. Even though it is put under the umbrella of Galamsey, we have intensified the extent of pollution and destruction. And that's what makes this very, very different.
Clearly, you must be disappointed with the way things turned out yesterday after organized labor, decided that they will no longer go on the strike, but rather look at what the government is doing, especially starting today, and they will inform their next move going forward.
On the contrary, I have a slightly different point of view from many others. I think that organized labor has its autonomous right to discuss with the government and decide for itself where it decides to pause and where it decides to move forward. They feel that they have seen signals that give them reason to want to suspend the strike. It is all part of the conversation and negotiation that goes on. I'm not a member of organized labor. I do not feel that they are the people who owe me the responsibility for resolving this, but I helped to elect a government into place. All Ghanaians, whether they voted for this party or not, as citizens have a vested interest. It is the government that I hold accountable. So it is up to organized labor to manage its tactics and to contribute to a long-term solution which involves all of us as citizens, as stakeholders. But I continuously harp on that the entire country needs to be careful that it doesn't go down this rabbit hole of saying, oh, we're disappointed, and so we forget people are dying, the forests are dying, the water bodies are dying. It is that we're looking for a solution for, not a resolution between government and organized labor. That's an intermediate step. Important as it may have been, it is not what we are chasing. As citizens, we are looking for the regeneration and rehabilitation of our ecological system, and I suggest that's what we must focus on.
But what more can we really do? I mean, to push government to the point where government will have no option than to act and act in the best interest of the public. I mean, a lot of people place a lot of premium in what organized labor was warming up to do. Now that it's out of the way, what more can we do to hold them? It's like we are even begging them to fix what is very important for us.
Well, first is that I hope that given the intensity, especially in the last weeks, but this has been on, if I remember us talking about, say, 2015, 2016, so people make it seem as though it's just a few days ago that everybody started talking about. Indeed, the coalition that I represent has been around since 2017. Occupy Ghana and so on and so forth. We're all speaking about this, so it's not that new in that regard. And I would first expect that given the intensity of the conversation, alarm and just general concern in the populace that the government will not have to be pushed to act. That the commitments that it has made, it will actually see them through. But it is a responsibility, coming to your question, of us all to ensure that the commitments that have been made, A, are implemented, executed according to the agreed timelines. And then it is our responsibility, in my view, to also scrutinize and say what else needs to be done. You cannot solve this problem only by sending soldiers and policemen to arrest everybody and confiscate equipment. It may be a part of the things that you need to do, but you need to involve the larger community and all stakeholders. And so those things need to be articulated very clearly. People have spoken a lot about that you have to create the legal context that enables us to take the degree of interventions that are required to be able to solve a problem that is deteriorating at this pace and this scale very quickly. And that's what the call for a state of emergency is about. Sometimes it gets into a kind of abstract conversation, but just saying that this is now almost a war situation. Our ecological system is being destroyed, or to some extent has been destroyed, and we need to act with intensity to regenerate, save it for ourselves and for the generations to come.
But Mr. Nsarkoh, I mean, for you personally, I'm more interested in the way forward. Now that, I mean, it will take us years to return the environment and the water bodies to the state they were before the destruction. And with your background in corporate governance, leading a global entity, the way forward, whilst we try to find a way to address the unemployment, which is becoming an excuse for a lot of these folks who are involved in the destruction of the environment, what should be the approach? Now that we know that we can't go back. I mean, doing nothing means preparing for all of us our deaths.
Yeah, first is I'd like to explode that notion that Galamsey has come about because of large-scale unemployment. Yes, it is an issue that large-scale unemployment makes people fodder and they can be recruited for these sorts of purposes. But I am totally unconvinced that it is peasants who have mobilized this industrial-scale organization, bought earth-moving equipment, the shangfangs or whatever it is that they are called, import chemicals at this scale. It cannot be them.
Right.
There are notably powerful and influential actors involved in this issue, and we should not sidestep it and make it an issue of peasants only. Now, having said that, I am a believer all the time in getting the right expertise across stakeholder communities around the table. When you spoke about my background in global business and so on, but perhaps my background in chemical engineering is what is most important to this conversation.
Right.
So I come in as a chemical engineer with a certain point of view, a certain angle, and a certain perspective. But there are sociological dynamics, there are economic dynamics. The water even has sometimes religious and spiritual dimensions because people, theological dimensions, because people in their faith systems, water and nature has a role. So you have to take it from several angles, including the angle that is not spoken about much, of mass education.
Right.
If you do not educate people about why all these interventions are necessary in the long term for the good and welfare of us all, they will turn against it. And then there's the side of how do you get new income streams. But you have mentioned that. So they are experts in mining engineering, they are experts in environmental studies, they are experts in aquatic biology, they are experts in ecosystem management and so on and so forth. Get those people around the table. All of it has to be put in a legal context, so you need the lawyers as well. The sort of displacement and disruption, you need sociologists, maybe psychologists. Let's get them around the table. This is the national issue. It should not become a partisan polarization issue. It's a national issue. If we don't do it, nowadays when you say Galamsey is an existential threat, there is not even a debate. Everybody agrees.
Right.
That says it all. So we must all come together and sort out this problem.
Should the state play, a bigger role in this, or ultimately everything rests with the authority in place? I'm asking because mining itself, from the position we've come to accept, we cannot ban it. Even when we place a ban on it, according to the Minerals Commission, it was around that period that small-scale mining had more gold in that country. So banning it is out of the conversation. Now, how do we exploit this natural good for the benefit of the economy? This week, the news is out. Newmont has sold its Achen mines to a Chinese company at over $1 billion. Imagine this money staying in this country. Because we are not directly involved in terms of state participation, this money is going out of the country. This is a resource that perhaps we've been blessed with. How we are exploiting it is the issue. Can the state or should the state play a key role in terms of harnessing it and perhaps leading the conversation in terms of exploiting it to our advantage?
The simple answer to your question is absolutely yes. Not just an increased role, it must play the principal role. This idea that we can manage the society without state involvement and state management is a very fanciful way of looking at life, what people call the neoliberal approach. It simply does not work. The state, and I don't want to leave it as abstract as that we just talk about the state and then there's no accountability. The state has a chief executive and the commander-in-chief. So the state, led by the principal actor, the chief magistrate of the land, the chief executive of the land, the commander-in-chief, he is the one that must convene all these actors across the stakeholder communities, and they must lead the resolution of this issue. You and I are very committed.
Right.
But how are we going to make law? We cannot make the law. We do not control the armed forces. If we are going to get economic allocations to communities, the regeneration, convening chiefs, and so on and so forth, you and I cannot do it, no matter how much we are committed as citizens. So the simple answer to your question is yes, absolutely. Is there a way that I can say that is more strong than that? Absolutely. And we are here because the state has not led, and because the chief executive of the state has not led. Let's not mince our words about that. That's the reason why we're here. This is a palpable failure of leadership. But we are where we are. If we continue to cry over spilled milk, the situation will get worse. So it's a time to say, let's acknowledge that leadership has failed, but now leadership must wake up and lead the state and convene all the stakeholders that are required in order that we get out of this space.
Well, we'll look at this space carefully. Mr. Yaw Nsarkoh, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. He's a member of the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey or Illegal Mining. We'll take a short break, and when we return, hopefully we'll take you to the eastern region where the fight is ongoing against Galamsey.